What another great episode. Let's talk about the Wheel of Time Season 3, Episode 6, The Shadow in the Night. Welcome back to Unraveling the Pattern. I'm Lauren, and you might have noticed I've got a new camera. I don't have a new setup, but this new camera makes me realize just how bad everything looks in HD. I really got to clean myself and everything up, but I'm excited that I have this new camera. Special thanks to my Patreon and YouTube members who made this possible. I really appreciate your support, and I'm trying to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of Season 3, so please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Okay, as I usually do when I do my reviews, I talk about the good, the bad, the confusing, the ugly, the great, the surprising, and then sometimes I talk about theories. So let's just jump right in by starting with the good. There was so much to like about this episode, and I have a long list, but I'm actually going to be saving a lot of it for the great, because there were just a lot of things that were really great to me. I love the cold open. Many fans sort of assumed that we were getting this Leandrin flashback due to some of the promotional images that we got earlier before the season aired, and it looks like we were right. I really like that scene. People are going to complain, why are we getting so much Leandrin when there's more story from the books that needs to be told? But to me, this has been set up since season 1. This was all super important backstory, and how delightful to see Ishamael back. That was a really cool moment. I'm going to talk more about the Black Aja specifically in my theories section, so let's move on. One of the things I liked about Leandrin's story and the Black Aja story is that they're developing certain things like compulsion a little bit more slowly than they did in the books. Leandrin, from a young age, had this sort of headshot weave that she did with what appeared to be weaves of fire, and I thought that was interesting. In the books, if I remember correctly, Leandrin's first weave that she used when she was young was compulsion, or a type of compulsion, and I actually kind of like that she's taking Naomi's weaves and kind of changing it. You can tell that she's developing her own version of compulsion. Something I really liked in this episode was just giving certain characters a chance to get to know each other better. Nynaeve and Min, I liked that team up. I liked that Matt and Elaine kind of did their own thing, and it was fun to see Matt kind of in his element, kind of flirting with people and gambling, and I thought that was all really fun. I saw some people question after episode 5, where do they get all that squash? How are they eating all these vegetables? There was no sign of any of that. So I actually really love that they visited the gardens in this episode, and the way that they connected it to Alcera. I thought that was a really smart choice, especially considering that tragic end for her at the end of the episode, which we'll get to. But all in all, they're just continuing to develop the Aiel culture in really great ways, and I'm loving how Rand is interacting with all of that. I also love how Avienda is sort of on the fence about Rand. There are times when she sort of glances at him and you can tell she's into what he's doing, and then there are other times where she's clearly not happy with him and she hates this role she's been given to sort of babysit the Kara Karn. So that's all really fun to me and very accurate to the books. Now, I know it's not in the exact same settings and not all the characters are exactly the same, but I'm really happy that they're taking their time to do that. We all love Lanfear. I love seeing more Lanfear. It was really interesting seeing Lanfear kind of appearing in Moraine's dreams and talking to Egwene. It was really surprising to me seeing Egwene tied to the wheel. I guess that's just like a kink that Lanfear has. It's something she likes to do. It's obviously a metaphor for the audience that these characters are tied to the wheel, but I actually really liked all of that. It was lovely to see Pat and Fane and a couple Trollocs. One little fun Easter egg, Chesmel Emery, the yellow Black Aja sister, had a cat, which was a fun callback to the books. I absolutely loved Moghedien in the show. I probably would have put this in my great section, but there's so much great. I'll talk about this now. Moghedien and just the little creepy moments where she's like spitting in their food and chewing up their food and putting it back. Those kinds of moments are so small and so important to me. And I'm so glad that they're including things like that. It just really gives the Forsaken, especially Moghedien, this sort of twisted nature that I'm loving so much. I've said this a million times, but they really are doing the Forsaken better for the most part. We'll talk about Samael and how I feel about that in a bit, but overall, Moghedien is just perfection. I know some people are going to feel like the Perrin and Fail stuff was rushed, but I actually really appreciate how they're handling that. I still don't agree with the idea to give Perrin a wife at the start of the show, but all things considered, I'm so glad that we're finally aligning him with his book version where he's with Fail. I think that they handled that pretty well. The fact that he was very open with her about being a wolf brother and that he can talk to wolves and that she was like, yeah, it's strange, but I'm into strange. And just the way that they had this banter. I also really liked the backstory that they gave where Fail's mother is a dark friend. That was all really interesting to me, really well handled. I know I sort of complained a little bit about the Maxim Alana plotline from the previous episode, but to me, it really worked this episode. I really did like that change that Matt's sisters were channeling together, and I almost wonder if they're linked. It makes me wonder, will they be able to channel by themselves, or do they have to be linked to channel? But I actually thought that was cool. Honestly, all in all, there was a lot of good in this episode, but let's move on to the bad and the confusing. First of all, Samael wasn't super well handled, in my opinion. He was introduced in episode 3, and then Lanfear said something to Moraine like, I'm sending Rand a little surprise. Let him handle it. And then Samael shows up, and boom, he's gone. Now, I don't know if it's clear if Samael is dead or not. I mean, we do know that the Forsaken are supposed to be immortal, so maybe he's alive. Maybe they're capturing him. Maybe he's supposed to take the place of another character that Rand is introduced to in book 4. I don't know what they're doing with Samael, but to me, it was just a little roughly handled. That being said, this is like the books. There's one Forsaken in the books that's not going to be in the show called Belal, and he just kind of comes and goes so quickly, and it is what it is. So I'm willing to let that slide. Another thing that I have some tiny nitpicks about is just this idea that certain characters have such plot armor. There are certain characters who are getting stabbed through the chest or shot by multiple arrows, and they manage to survive. Even in the past episode, Elida getting stabbed over and over by the Gray Man, and she's able to be healed. But Joya gets stabbed one time, and boom, she's gone. Like, these are the kinds of things that kind of annoy me. I understand why they're doing this, but it's getting a little bit old for me. It's a little bit akin to the fake out deaths that they've done in previous seasons. We're just kind of getting more of that. I guess if I had one other minor complaint, it's that we're not seeing a lot of Padan Fain. He's not really connected to the White Cloaks in the way that I would like. It was really cool to see him show up finally, but again, it just feels like TV show shorthand. They just have too much to do in too little time, and they just constantly have to rush through it, and they're just trying to put different pieces on the chessboard together as quickly as they can without a lot of deep backstory. Another thing, what's going on with Lord Luke? Is that even a part of this? I don't know. And those kinds of things kind of concern me. That said, obviously they're setting up some things with the Two Rivers for the next episode, so I'm anxious to see how that all goes down. But I don't know. As always, some things feel too rushed and some things feel too slow. And that's just the nature of a TV show like this. The things that are good are really good. The things that are bad aren't that bad. They're very minor nitpicks for me as a book lover. All right, let's move on to my big section, the great and the surprising. There were so many great things about this episode. I mean, Ishamael coming back. I am so excited that Ishamael got to come back. And the fact that it was 95 years ago is kind of an important detail. That's one of those little details that is very important, which I intend to kind of talk about in my breakdown. How was Ishamael able to talk to Liandrin 95 years ago if he wasn't yet freed from his seal? So I like that kind of stuff. Another thing I really loved about this episode is all of the Forsaken shenanigans, all the stuff going on behind the scenes. I already talked about Mogideon, but she was just perfect to me. And the fact that she was kind of sneaking in on Lanfear, watching her and Liandrin in the dream, but then she was also showing up to Eastbun and kind of messing around with Ravin's supposed Black Aja sisters. I thought that was all really fun and excellently handled. One of the things I loved the most about this episode was the scene where Mogideon showed up to the girls and used compulsion on them. That scene was so well done. I just loved every second of it. It reminded me a lot of a similar scene from the books, but in a way it was almost better. I just loved how Mogideon almost treated them kindly. She was so sweet, but she had this sort of darkness to her. And then that moment when Nynaeve and Elaine, they were so excited to help her and they give her the bracelet, but then Nynaeve won't let go of it. And Nynaeve has this sort of like fake smile on her face while she's resisting. That was really well done to me. I thought that was so cool. And the way that Mogideon was like, she kind of looks at Nynaeve differently, like, I can't underestimate you. There was even a moment, I don't know, but to me, there was a moment where Mogideon almost looked scared of Nynaeve. And that really worked for me. I'm so excited that they're building up that tension between those two characters. Another just awesome moment. Tom coming back, Matt finding Tom. I would have loved to see more of Tom more often in the show, but he's back. He's got his patchwork cloak. I mean, that was really exciting for me. I still have some feelings about Tom as a Gleeman, or rather this actor, Alexander Willem, as a Gleeman. I like that he plays the guitar and he's got this kind of gruff voice, but I want to see him juggling and doing the kinds of things that Gleemen do in the books. I wonder if he'll actually learn to juggle, or if they'll even try to fake juggling at any point, or if they're just kind of ignoring that side of Tom. I do like that we learned that he has some backstory in Andor, that they talked a little bit about that. I loved how Tom was like, I don't want any part of this, but then he immediately gets pulled in. The pattern is swirling and it's pulling Tom in, and the pattern's going to use him whether he likes it or not. I thought that was all handled really, really well. And then, of course, Elaine, what a moment for Kira Coveney to play this sort of like street girl from Tanchico, and the way that everyone was like, oh no, she's totally going to blow it. She can't sing this song. And then she sang The Hills of Tanchico, which was absolutely a highlight of the episode. What a wonderful moment. I can't believe how well she can sing. That whole scene was just so much fun. That song is going to be stuck in my head forever. I actually tweeted about this several weeks ago when I first saw this episode, and obviously nobody knew what I was tweeting about, but I thought I was pretty clever that I often think about The Hills of Tanchico. That was one of the funniest moments to me. Is yes, Elaine is very well studied. She knows things about other cultures. She knows things about accents. She is kind of that princess hiding among the common folk trope, but twisted. And I really enjoy that about Elaine's character in the books and in the show so far. But they really gave her this moment to shine. And I just thought it was perfect in almost every way. But one of the things that was really funny to me is even though she knew the song, she knew the lyrics and everything, there was a moment when it, to me at least, it looked like she didn't realize how dirty the song was until she saw people dancing and reacting to it. And then she was like, oh, and then there was that moment in her head where it sort of clicked. And then she kind of like fully embraced it. That was just perfectly done. Another highlight for me, and I don't know if this is true, but I feel like this scene between Rand and Moraine was probably influenced by Yosha and Rosamund Pike. I feel like Yosha Stradowski and Rosamund Pike really love the characters that they're playing. They have fallen in love with the Wheel of Time. And so to me, this scene felt like something they probably really wanted to do, where they actually talked about Saidar and Saidin and the differences between the male half and the female half of the One Power, and how for Rand, it's more like trying to constantly grapple with it and keep control. But for women, it's more about surrendering. I love that scene, not only because it was book lore accurate and we finally heard Saidar and Saidin, which was like, finally, they put it in the show, but also just the acting between the two of them, trying to understand each other, but also recognizing that they're worlds apart with their abilities and with what they understand about the One Power and all these things. Excellent acting, excellent scene between the two of them. Oh, and the fact that Rand recognized the Sakarnan from his visions, and he's like, I know what that thing is you're holding. And then she's kind of like asking him for advice, really worked for me. And then last, but certainly not least, the scene with Rand being attacked by Samael. I kind of already mentioned I didn't love how quick that all happened. I did like that Samael had some Aiel dark friends with him, and I did like how most of that went down. But the things that were absolutely great and surprising to me was the way that Rand almost nonchalantly was channeling to stop Samael. He wasn't even looking at him. He was almost just more focused on how good it felt to channel. And he was doing these amazing, massive power bursts and just knocking Samael down and having the rocks tumble on him. And then, oh, the heartbreaking moment with Alcera, where he tried to revive her. That kind of happens in the books as well. And I think it was really smart that the show gave a name to that character and gave Rand a bit more of a connection with her. And I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't realize when she was first introduced that obviously she was going to be that girl. But obviously that was what they were doing, and it made it that much worse when he couldn't revive her. Yosha Stradowski's acting in that moment, where he was just so distraught, was so well done. And it was super disturbing to just see him pushing all these flows of the One Power into her, almost like breaking her bones and trying to bring her back. That scene was heartbreaking. It was beautiful. It didn't have the same emotional resonance for me that the scene in the books had, but that's because we were in Rand's head during that moment, and he was genuinely like going mad in that moment. But overall, that was definitely a highlight for me. I loved this episode. Now, let's talk about a few theories and some speculation. I just have a minor theory or two. One is they're going to continue to expand Ishamael's presence in the history of the show. They're probably not bringing him back. I'm assuming Ishamael is actually dead, but they do seem to be hinting at the fact that he was involved in the past. So I'm really excited to see how that expands. I guess that's not so much a theory as I'm looking forward to seeing how they continue to tell that story. But the main theory I have is I went and counted the Black Aja sisters that we know of so far. Now we know there's 11, and I counted 11. So all of the Black Aja sisters that are part of the 11 that we know of, some of them went with Liandrin to Tanchico. Some of them were killed at the beginning of the season during the Hall of the Tower fight and in the streets. A couple were captured and then killed by Elida last episode. I'll break this down in my episode breakdown video. But basically, there's one unaccounted for Black Aja sister. She was there in the Hall of the Tower. She was a yellow sister, and we haven't seen her since that scene. So my theory is she actually is taking another group of Black Aja sisters to go find Mazrim Taim, which is actually the story that Joya told Nynaeve and Elaine when they were interrogating her, that some of the Black sisters, she said Liandrin and her group was going to go free Mazrim Taim. But I actually really like this idea that some of those stories, the story that Joya and Amiko told about going to Tyr and trying to take Kalendor or going to find Mazrim Taim, I think those are both true. I think there are Black sisters trying to do those things while Liandrin is going to Tanchico to find the collar and bracelets. So anyway, that's my main theory for this episode. I would rate this episode probably a 9 out of 10. I really liked it. I think I liked it better than episode 5, and I really liked episode 5. It's hard because I always rate these things high, and I'm starting to think, okay, maybe at the end of the season, I'll do like a real rating where I'll say, okay, now that I've watched the whole season and I've kind of reviewed these and I've done these breakdowns, here's where I stand. I mean, I still feel that episode 4 is 10 out of 10. That is the bar. I have a hard time believing they'll ever surpass that. but I hope they do. But so far, this season has just been stellar. And yeah, I would put this at a 8.5 or a 9. What did you think of this episode? As always, please like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Help me get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Thank you so much to my Patreon and YouTube members and supporters. I couldn't do this without you. Thanks again for helping me get this new camera. I'm so excited for what this channel has in store. And once the season ends, there's going to be a lot of fun lore videos and other things coming as we continue to ramp up our numbers. It will just give me more freedom to do this on the side and hopefully turn it into something I can do a little bit more frequently. But right now I'm juggling this with other jobs and my family. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, let the dragon ride again on the winds of Prime.